Hi, this is the last video I'm going to post this week, and it's just a couple of quick comments about smarter learning goals and reflective learning, simply because we talk about it so much in class. So I'm going to start a slideshow from the beginning and take a few minutes to talk about those two key ideas. You've probably heard the idea of a smarter learning goal before. So, this idea that your goals are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time sensitive. I add this idea of ethical, relational, and reflective simply because I worry that when we talk about people with disabilities in class, we start to talk about disability as a general idea at times, and we forget that these are stories of people and real lives, and at times real challenge and real suffering, but also real joy and real experiences. And I want to keep the person in the center of our thinking. And that's the reason I ask you to think about how you're engaging the course content. Are you doing it in such a way that it is relational? It has a person or people in the center of your thinking, and that you're engaging it in an ethical and sensitive way. The smarter learning goals are simply I want you to think through a couple of key learning goals and express them in a way that is structured and realistic and gives you a sense of whether you're going to meet them or not. In the case of graduate students, this actually forms the crux of your learning plan that you're going to use to identify your learning goals and actually decide your evaluations for the course. And if you're a graduate student in the class, I'm going to ask you to make a Zoom appointment with me so we can talk about that in a more detailed way. And if you have any questions about deciding on your smarter goals, please reach out to me. For the undergrads, I'm simply asking you to identify and include a couple of them in your first CSL reflective assignment. But then this idea of what do I mean by reflective? Because I talk about it a lot. And simply, I want you to move beyond introspection to a place where you're beginning to critically analyze a situation, problem, or your thinking, and that you're doing it in such a way that you're integrating your life experiences. And you're going beyond this idea of superficial conclusions and thinking. I use this sort of quick diagram that Ryan proposes, where we report, we respond, we relate, we engage in some reason, and then we restructure our thinking. So briefly, what do I mean by this? Or what does Ryan mean by this? Report and respond is simply after you read something or hear something or learn something or observe something, what I want you to do is simply take stock of where you are. What happened? What did you observe? What's your initial thinking? And tell us a little bit about that. Ask some questions. But then the next step is how do you begin to make sense of your first gut reaction? Is this connected to previous learning or experiences? Has someone else told you that this is the way the world is or how you're supposed to think? Or have you had an experience like this in the past where you've had to engage these ideas? Do you have any gaps in your knowledge that you think you might need to fill in or address before you move forward? This is where you start to figure out what you know and what you don't know and how you know these things. The next step, though, is reasoning, where you're starting to take a critical approach to these ideas and ask yourself, what further learning do I need to do? How might an expert respond to this? Where do I start to fill in the gaps? And this is where you might take some of the reading you're doing for class or some of the conversations we're having on Zoom and just begin to integrate it into your previously held ideas. And then finally, what I'm going to hope you do is you're going to restructure your thinking. And it might be that you change your thinking, or it might be that you just feel more secure and confident about the ideas you've already held. But what you're doing is you're doing it in a more nuanced way and in a more critical way where you have a clearer sense of what you know, why you know it, and what you may not know, and how you might address that moving forward. So, quickly, in a nutshell, report and respond is where you're describing your initial feelings. Relating is where you're sorting out how you have those ideas and how you've come to arrive at those ideas. Reasoning is where you begin to integrate new learning and to sort out what this learning begins to tell you, and you identify if you need to go off and do more learning. And then restructuring is how you begin to integrate all of this into some new thinking and new ideas moving forward. Thanks.